Welcome, everybody, to the annual business meeting for CEPA. This is for the 23-24 year. As you know, I was your president for that term. We've had a wonderful year, and I look forward to the next several years and growing our professional and our organization. So to start with, I will give you a brief overview of our agenda of what we're going to cover today. That includes the introduction of our second cohort of fellows. We're going to review the past year, including our budget report, and hear from all of our committee members. Each committee is going to have a representative to speak to their successes and their initiatives moving forward. Then we'll talk about the election results and our upcoming year. So to begin with, I'd like to introduce our second cohort of our CEPA Fellows. This was a flagship initiative started by our immediate past president, Jamal, and we introduced our first cohort of CEPA Fellows at our annual meeting in February. And we'd like to introduce our second cohort of fellows, Dr. Walt Thompson, Dr. Carol Garber, Ms. Mallory Rice, Dr. Jeff Crystal, Dr. Peter Roney, and Dr. Martin Montgomery. So we would love to welcome them to our fellowship, and Brian Coyne will be talking about how to become a fellow a little later on in our presentation. So just a quick overview of our past year. We had several initiatives that got started. We are continuing our partnership with ESSA, our Australian counterparts, BASES, our UK counterparts, and CEPA, our Canadian counterparts. And we are continuing to grow stronger in our communications between these organizations, as well as some collaborational work that we are doing. Both on a national and international level, we have a greater presence. CEPA is getting out there and being involved with a lot of different initiatives, such as the Physical Activity Alliance. Clinton Bronner was working with our initiative, It's Time to Move, which was led by the Physical Activity Alliance, and its goal was to make physical activity, prescription, and referral standard of care in the U.S. health system. And that is an ongoing process to get CEPs recognized as a profession, get us interacting with all of the different organizations that are essential people to whom we are working with. And so we thank Clinton for his efforts there, and look forward to seeing the process of It's Time to Move initiative, and see where CEPA can be actively involved with that. So he's a great representative for us there. In addition, CREP had a webinar in which CEPA was represented as one of the panelists. So again, this is a way that we as CEPs are getting our organization recognized and getting actively involved within that. Additionally, the International Confederation of Sport and Exercise Practice, which is ICS-ESP, we had two representatives, Tim Werner and Sandy Connect, that accepted our request to represent CEPA, and they were working with a subgroup developing the clinical exercise physiologist standards for international standards across the board. And so we look forward to their continued work on CEP standards. In addition to that, ACSM asked me to be their proxy rep, and so I sit on the board of the ICS-ESP as well. So CEPA is actively involved in all these different organizations. We're nationally and getting international recognition for the work that we're doing, and we look forward to the continuous growth in that. Other progress areas, based on the survey of all clinical exercise physiologists, we have determined that e-module learning on a platform would be very beneficial. And so CEPA is working to create a subgroup to spearhead some e-learning discussions and progress to develop some courses that would be of interest to our CEPs to gain CECs. And this would also help in a financial aspect of growing our organization, and not only in a financial aspect, but also in a membership format as well. Lastly, my flagship initiative of starting a mentorship program is starting to take shape. We, temporarily put this on hold while we got the fellowship program up and running. And now, as you can see, that we accepted our second cohort, we're interested in taking the fellows that have been uh, nominated and putting them to work to mentor both academic students, faculty, programs, and moving forward that way. So I look forward to the coming year where we can get these initiatives off and running. We also had the pleasure of two of our members, Dr. Walt Thompson, Dr. Jamal Osmak, wrote a wonderful book, ACSM's Clinical Exercise Physiology. And all of our members, as CEPA members, you guys have 20% off discounts. So take advantage of this. Go out and CEPA has endorsed this book. It's a wonderful reference. So this is one of the great things that we are doing within CEPA to support our fellow members and the organization. So it's wonderful. Take advantage of it as you can. Additionally, as you know, we're always looking for sponsors. I'd like to commend MGC Diagnostics for their their continued platinum level support of CEPA, and I'd like to welcome back COSMED. They have just recently accepted and sponsored at the gold level, so we are glad to have them on board. And literally, as of 2 days ago, we have a new sponsor coming on board. It's VO2 Masters, which is a non-medical metabolic analyzer. And so they are coming in to be sponsors for us as well. So this is, again, getting CEPA's name out there, getting us recognized, and vice versa partnership and in promoting our organization even better. So if you think of any wonderful sponsors, some of you are in the workforce and have companies that come by and introduce themselves, and you think they would be a great fit for CEPA, we would love to hear from you. Send their name along to us, and we will definitely reach out. Our annual conference that we held, this was the second year for a virtual conference, and it was a great success as well. I'd like to thank all of our committee members. Jamal and I, Jamal took the heavy lift of it. I was in the backgrounds, stirring the pot, but I'd like to thank all our wonderful committee members for putting together a wonderful conference. We had people from all across the US and as far away as Turkey. The conference was a huge success. We raised around $10,000, and we look forward to our next virtual conference in 2025. Looking at some unique topics in the profession, such as mental health and how exercise is predominantly a driving force to ward off some mental health issues, as well as cancer initiative and getting on board with that. We were able to introduce our first cohort of fellows, as I mentioned previously, which included many of our past presidents. And again, I'll reference you to Brian's presentation in a little bit, where he's going to tell you all about the wonderful ways in which everybody can become a fellow. And so in addition to that, that was pretty exciting, being the first cohort, one of the exciting events that we did. We also introduced the Randy Light Lifetime Achievement Award. And this is established, it was appropriately named for the first recipient who provides a strong leadership, poise, and dedication to CEP field. This award recipient in the future is going to be an individual who has significantly impacted the field of clinical exercise physiology and who has all the inspiring attributes that Randy has brought to the profession as well as our organization. And for those of you that are unaware of it, Randy was our first president of CEPA. So this was a great award and recognition that we look forward to continuing in the future. At this point in time, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Stephen Gatan to talk to us about the budget. So Stephen, just let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Thanks, Laura. Go ahead and bring up the first slide, and hello, everyone. So just 3 or 4 slides, and then I'll get out of your way. First one is just some broad stroke overarching comments. We changed our revenue tracking approach from separate accounting that we were keeping on our own and ACSM's accounting to just relying on ACSM alone. This is for revenue, revenue. But we also now have a website data stream for revenue as well. If anything, this has improved the accuracy of how our revenue is coming in, especially through the website. This has been very helpful. In addition to changing the revenue data tracking approach, we've changed the expense data tracking approach from separate accounting that we were doing on our own to an ACSM only. It was before it was us and ACSM, and now we're relying on ACSM only data stream. The manual oversight and right sizing tasks or duties that we rely on from ACSM for our data sources remains very time intensive. I won't call them errors, but there's often a disjointed approach between what we might categorize as revenue or expense and maybe where ACSM has put it, and we're working on that. But in general, things are improved, especially on the revenue side, because of the improved website data streams. If you're looking at numbers in 2023, our net income was favorable at 20,590. Our cumulative income so far, net income so far, over the years, tracked through ACSM is 103,000. We have more than enough reserve on hand for the typical 7 to 12 months of operational expenditures should there be an emergency. 2024, we're budgeting and we're on track, budgeting a net income that'd be revenue over expenses of 32,500. Next slide, Laura. If you look at revenue only now for 2023, we budgeted 39,800. We took in quite a bit above that at 58,200. The major sources of the major sources of gross revenue for that period of time were membership, almost 29,000, which exceeded what we had in 2022 of 21,000. Conference revenue is 11,000, which exceeded 2022, which was 1,000. This might be a good example of where our tracking fell short relative to how money was coming in, collected, and where it was being placed within ACSM's accounting system. Webinar revenue, this is website based, for 2023 was at 5,000. Our sponsoring revenue for 2023 was 3,000 from MedGraphics, or MGC, excuse me. So gross revenue for 2023 over 2022 was favorable, 17,000. Next slide. On the expense side, our budgeted 2023 revenue was 33,000. Budgeted 2023 expenses was 33,000. Our total 2023 expenses was 37,000, so it was increased over budgeted. Primarily for services, quote unquote services, again in quotes, because we're not quite sure if everything that ACSM tracked us as being a service was something that we would have placed in an account representing a service. But this is also for travel and IT, again, question, question, question. So we really need to get on top of work with ACSM to better track how our expenses are being bucketed, so that it more represents what's an actual expense. On the revenue side, we're doing better because the website's really going to help us along tracking these numbers. So 2023 expenses over 2022 were greater by 2,500, but again, we had a real good revenue year overall for 2023. So all in all, revenue, expenses, and net revenue is very good, very stable for the college with, excuse me, for the association with more than enough reserves to handle should we have some type of collapse, COVID-like, whatever. We have at least 6 to 12 months of reserves if need be, if we had no revenue coming in. So I'll stop there and say thank you. Take any questions that might come up, but it was pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Stephen, for all your hard work. It's not an easy job to try and balance all these books and track down the funds. So I really do appreciate all your efforts with
A
respect to
lot
that.
of it goes, I'll add, a lot of it goes to Wanda. She really carries a heavy load here.
She does. She does. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Racine, our membership chair. So, Racine.
Good afternoon. I'll just give you a brief recap over about what we've been doing in membership over the last year. Primarily throughout the last year, our committee was really working on trying to explore why people are not renewing their memberships or why they are not joining CEPA. And so therefore, we wanted to try to incentivize potentially the opportunity for new members to join. And therefore, we've put in some efforts at the ACSM annual meeting. So if you were in attendance in Boston, hopefully you saw our table. But we did want to offer a 50% discount to new members, and that included both student and professional and associate members. From that, we actually did increase our membership numbers slightly, and I'll show you that on the next slide. But ultimately, throughout the year, we wanted to try to determine just different ways of how we can increase visibility out there. So whether at the annual conference or within the regional ACSM conferences. We're also looking to try to enhance the student member experience as well. So even though we were trying to work on this past year, the upcoming year, we do try to reach out to program directors to try to get them on board as well as their students. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are our current membership numbers. We ended 2023 with approximately 590 members. We are currently at 690 members. So between previous years, we were growing at approximately about 14% in total membership. And this year we have grown to 17% increase in membership. So we're 100 members greater than we were this time last year. And through our efforts at the annual ACSM conference, we gained 21 new members and we had 17 renewals. So we were hoping to shoot for 700 members. Ultimately, our goal for many years has been to get to 1,000 members by 2024. So we're still short of that. But I feel like just having 17% increase in membership over the last year has been fantastic. So we're going to use these numbers and use it as an opportunity to pursue other avenues of trying to reach out to our former members, find out why they are not rejoining, and to collaborate more with marketing as well to try to increase our membership efforts. Next slide. Okay, so this was kind of a recap of what we did do along with marketing. We offered the 50% discount code, and as I mentioned before, 17 renewals and 21 new members. Out of the new members, we did get 11 students, 8 professional 1 year and 2 professional 2 years. So those that were working the table, hopefully you were trying to push the 2-year membership and try to lock them in for a whole 2 years. But we managed to get a couple, so that was helpful. Next slide. And lastly, I'd just like to thank our committee members for all the time and effort that they've put in. Our committee members span across the country, so it's really hard to find a time where everyone's able to meet among, teaching schedules and time zones and patient schedules and whatnot. So just want to thank everybody for their efforts and all their hard work. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Racine, for heading this this group up and this committee. They've, like you said, they've done a lot of hard work and a lot of creative ideas on how we can grow our membership, and working with marketing. It's definitely beneficial, and hopefully in the next year, Garrett will see that threshold of 1,000 be achieved with all these initiatives that we've got going on. So again, Racine, thank you so much for your efforts on that. I'm going to move on to publications. Unfortunately, Webb Smith is unable to join us. He is the publications chair, along with multiple committee members that actively work hard to put out our journal the 4 times a year. So I'm just going to briefly go over this. So the areas of focus, they're really working on getting the updates on the website, readership, thinking about getting the indexing. All of these are kind of a trickle-down effect. Once you get one started, then it can affect the others. The more readership we have, then the willingness to get us indexed and moving forward with respects to that. So just a brief kind of what's up and what direction are they going. So the 2023-24 update is that we are now using a service managed by Knowledge Works Global. And so this has been a change for us, and it's actually so far been a very positive platform that we've been able to utilize and work with and get our JSEP out on our timely fashion. The readership, we're looking at over 23,000 exercise physiologists have access to JSEP worldwide because of our collaboration with our partners, with ESSA and CEPA. They're having access to our journal, so we're being able to publish this and getting recognition. Uniquely, ESSA had their conference in May, and all the abstracts are being published. That's the word I'm looking for, in a supplemental journal. So that's exciting. And I have the privilege, Webb, I'm going to put you on the spot if you're ready to take over. So.
Yeah, sorry, I got caught in clinic.
Totally fine. So I just got started. So you want to talk about the readership? That's where I finished up.
Okay. Are there slides? I can't see the slides.
Yeah, they should be shared. So.
All I see is active cameras. It says no materials on my end. I don't know.
Okay. I'm not sure. My other panelists, you can see the slides? Yeah, okay. Sorry, Webb, it's a
Yeah, I guess go ahead.
okay. Pipe in when I misspeak about anything. So
Okay.
again, the readership, we're looking to promote more institutional subscribers. We've been recently got access to that, and we're trying to get more and more institutions to buy into our subscribe to JSEP. So if you're working in an institution and you're interested, try and get your librarians on board to buy into our subscription. Okay, and it's based on the size of your university. Let's see. So in addition, like I said, this is the subscription information. If anybody's looking on how to get, access to it, we can, if you're a CEPA member, an SM member, or a CSEP member, all of you have access to that. And then for more information for an institutional subscription, you just need to email CEPA_JECEP@acsm.org. And that would be the best way to reach out, and we'd be able to get you in contact with Webb and others to talk about what it would cost to have the subscription at your institution. Indexing update for JSEP. JSEP content is searchable now in Google Scholar. It's not true journal indexing, but it improves on the data architecture and allows the JSEP content to be indexed. So this is exciting because, for our students and even for ourselves to be able to access this content through Google Scholar.
I will make a quick comment there that so there are multiple like avenues for this and to get indexed. And one of the things that we ran across as we were pursuing indexing through Web of Science is that we really needed to, based on how the journal was set up with the publisher, we needed to update some of our practices so that the information was more readily searchable in what they call these crawler accounts that go and look at the back end information from the journals. And so in the process of improving sort of the data architecture on the back end of our journal, it then made it way easier for some of that information to get pulled in through Google Scholar. And so a large amount of our information is searchable. It doesn't count as true indexing because the journal itself has not been identified, recognized as an indexed source, but the information is out there. So if you're searching Google Scholar, you can find JSEP articles pretty readily. And that's a big step. It was honestly a sidestep because we needed to get that done in order to move forward with indexing on the other journal sites as well. So it's one of those things that was a little bit of an unintended consequence, but nonetheless an important step.
The next bullet says JSEP was submitted to Web of Science in August 2019.
All right, so I'm just going to follow along. I opened the slides on mine, so I guess I'll let you know when I want to change. But so JSEP, we originally submitted in August of 2019. We got feedback. I described this a bunch last year, but this is a very it's a subjective evaluation, and so we got these reviews back. They gave us information that we needed to improve some of our content structure, some of our procedures and technical aspects of the journal. We did that. We so far have completed 3 rounds of revisions because after the first round, they sort of revised their request as well. So it's been a bit of a moving target. Ultimately, we got triaged at that space. And so since then, we've addressed the other concerns and are back under review. We just recently submitted to go back under review for Web of Science. As part of that, we had to, so I don't know how much of the history of JSEP has been shared there, but basically CEPA owns the rights to the content on JSEP. This is a very unique setup. Most of the time, the publisher actually owns or co-owns the rights to it. And so they're heavily incentivized to promote these things getting indexed. In our case, we don't have that luxury, so they don't, because there's no incentive for them, they don't really do it. In order to move forward with that, we had to get CEPA recognized as an independent publisher and holder of content. And so we did that. We received that at the end of 2023. So now CEPA, if we were to publish a book, we could publish now basically books or white papers or journals, and we would those could be recognized as an independent source. So um, so that's a development that maybe we could leverage, particularly in the webinar space or something like that, if we wanted to try to actually publish that content and license it to other people. All right. I'm going to skip the next slide just because it's kind of redundant, and then go to the one that's the update on JCEP and John Ehrman. So I announced, John announced last year that he intended to step down as the editor-in-chief for the journal. And so we've spent 2023 going back and so that relationship hadn't been evaluated or really officially codified in the 12 years that the journal has kind of been around. And so we went back and developed a true job description for it and an EIC contract framework that mirrors some of the ACSM and other publishers. And we're currently recruiting a new EIC. We've had the job posted. We have 3 applicants that we're in the process of interviewing. And Dr. Ehrman has agreed to stay on as the co-EIC for 1-year transition, just to help help make sure that things are transitioned smoothly. It also gives us the luxury of hiring an EIC that maybe isn't super established in the editorial space, but would have good promise long term. And then he's going to stay on as a special advisor and content developer beyond that. I popped in, I think, right as Laura was saying something about this, but John has really been interested in driving the development of special issues with the ESSA conference and obviously with the CEPA conference, so that those go into special issues. And so I think that's a space that we would really like to see him continue in long term. So next steps for us are to continue with the interviews of the candidates. Our plan is to video record those, for John and I to interview the candidates, video record those in the next couple weeks, and then present that to the publications committee for a vote. One of the things that I would comment here is that as part of the negotiation or part of the contract with ESSA and with the Canadian Society for Exercise Physiologists, is that they have voting rights on the next EIC. And so we try to schedule those interviews together, and it is way too many time zones to coordinate in a cohesive way. And so that's why we're going to go this video route, and then we'll present that to the publications committee for a vote, and then make a recommendation to the CEPA executive committee. We're hoping to have that done in the first part of July. The next slide is just what's next. Our goals for this year will be to finalize the EIC and then try to get some additional applications out for journal indexing. We still need to increase our journal submission. This is a point of critique that we've received in the indexing, is that we need to publish more original content. Things like commentaries and reviews and expert opinion kind of things, those don't count as scientific content as far as indexing goes. So we really need original research for those, and so we want to work to try to do that, and then also to expand our readership. And then the final slide was just to encourage students and colleagues to consider JCEP when publishing. If you're interested in getting involved, and let us know. I think we received a couple of interested people from the ACSM meeting. The one other point that I would make here, particularly about considering to publish in JCEP, is anything that you publish in JCEP, when it does get indexed, the entire journal's history is retroactively indexed. So, it's not something where if you publish and then we get indexed, then it becomes an issue. These are things that would be, sort of backwardly applied, so that all of it will be indexed, and that's how we would establish our index factor going forward. All right, so I guess that's it. I'm sorry I was late.
It's quite all right, Webb. It's understandable. All of us have full-time jobs in addition to volunteering, and I really do appreciate you chairing this publications committee and keeping JSEP moving forward. And good luck with the interviews and finding a new EIC. Dr. Ehrman's going to be a tough one to replace, but we look forward to seeing what JSEP has in the future. So thank you again. Next, I'm going to move on to our legislative committee. This is actually co-chaired by Joel and Brooks. So Joel Hardwick and Brooks Hibner. And I will pass it over to Joel because I think he's got the power to speak.
I do. I have all the power, Laura. Thank you so much. So this will be a short and sweet overview of the Legislative Committee, and I first want to thank all of the current committee members for their work this past year and former committee members that are demonstrated on this screen. Thank you guys for your continued support of this committee. Next slide, please. Because we have gone over a little bit of a transition, Brooks and I are the new co-chairs of this committee with Brittany Overstreet following before us. And I would like to take this moment to severely thank Brittany Overstreet for her leadership and expertise and the good example she set for Brooks and I in leading this committee. Thank you, Brittany. Next slide. So as far as future goals are concerned, we've identified a couple of points of interest. First being, and this came as a surprise to me, but in some academic institutions, exercise science has not been recognized as a STEM field. It's kind of unbelievable, but here we are. So what we've taken on this group is coming together with other organizations to come up with a white paper to organize a process to become a STEM field, if not already. And I'd like to open this up to the members on this call. If you are at one of these institutions and you are experiencing some of these issues, please do let us know what you're experiencing and how we might be able to help. And this will kind of go into this white paper, and we'll submit this so everybody else can get on the same page. Along with the NPI information that's already on the CEPA website, we've come across some other organizations, undergraduate and graduate programs, that would like something a little bit more tailored and specific towards their student population. And I believe this is a great opportunity for us to kind of get it on the ground floor with some students and get them active earlier. And lastly, but not least, we've coordinated with the chairs of the advocacy group to discuss what some of our shared goals and opportunities are for collaboration. So thank you, Nicole, for meeting with Brooks and I the other day, and there are some good points where we can come together for future collaboration. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. So I really do appreciate, you and Brooks stepping in. It's always hard to find people willing to chair the committees. And we got lots of great volunteers, and it's fantastic that way. Thank you for stepping up into the chair position. Legislative and advocacy are going to be working very hard in the next several months. There's lots on the plate to get CEPs out there and have our voice again, make sure that people are aware of what we do and how our subject matter experts can be of assistance in every which way as these groups develop. So next, quick report from Career Resources. Unfortunately, Robbie is in clinic as well. So Garrett's graciously going to step in and give us an overview.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you to all the work being done from the committees that have previously presented, as well as who we'll be hearing from later on the business meeting. I can't say thank you enough for all the work that drives the EPA forward. But I'm presenting on behalf of Robbie Robinson, who's been chairing the Career Resources Committee for the past several years. The largest responsibility of the Career Resources Committee at present is to collaborate with the Marketing Committee, whose members are shown on the slide, to facilitate what's called the CEPA job share. The CEPA job share allows us to take in submissions from members through the website portal to be able to both advertise positions and attract high quality applicants, as well as the membership benefit for our members to be aware of relevant clinical research, as well as academic positions in the field of clinical exercise physiology. So I'm sure folks who follow CEPA on social media are well aware of these posts that show up. I appreciate the work from the marketing committee to utilize our Canva resources to make really eye-catching and appropriate posts to drive a lot of interest towards the website, as well as networking within the field. To date, in 2024, there's been 8 job share submissions to start the year off. That's in line with where we've been previously. We're certainly looking to increase traffic and submissions through this portal. So if you are a member, or if you're working with a member who has a job to post that's relevant for the clinical space, whether it's educational in nature, research in nature, or elsewise, feel free to submit a job share post. We'll be able to vet that. We'll be able to get that posted on our various social media platforms as well to get eyes on those positions. In addition to that initiative, in years past, has been successful for the Career Resources Committee to take the lead in opportunities to reach out to undergraduate and graduate exercise science and kinesiology-based programs across the country to facilitate online virtual panel presentations to help introduce the next generation of student members in the field to the possibilities inherent within clinical exercise physiology. So we've had good luck in years past presenting to groups of exercise science clubs or kinesiology clubs, those types of things, to really showcase the diversity of opportunities available within the field. We've had, myself included, but individuals representing research opportunities, bariatric opportunities, pulmonary oncology, the whole umbrella of clinical exercise physiology. So we hope to revitalize those coming into this next year as well, to continue to keep the pipeline strong in terms of individual students knowing what opportunities are available. They're typically pretty excited to hear this news. So if you're working at an educational institution or working with faculty who might be interested in establishing some of these virtual panels, by all means, reach out as well. We can facilitate those going forward. But can't say thank you enough once again to Robbie for leading this committee, as well as our marketing team that really does a lot of the hard work to make these really impactful posts. I think it's a strong member benefit. So that's where the update lands with Career Resources Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett, for stepping in. Okay. Next, we have the marketing committee. I'm going to pass it off to Kim and Laura co-chair it, but Kim's got the power of the voice today.
Thank you, Laura. So yeah, I kind of want to start as everyone else did and really acknowledge and thank my committee members for all their hard work they've put in this year. They're really great at turning around posts pretty quickly, social media posts pretty quickly. So I appreciate them a lot, and they've got a lot of great ideas that we've incorporated this year and that we hope to incorporate moving forward. So myself and Laura Richardson are the co-chairs, and then on our committee we have Ron Benbow, we have Ashley Cezanne, Anna Veazey, and Molly Wainstock. So thank you to them. Next slide, please. Here we go. So in this last year, one of our major initiatives was to increase the regularity of our social media posts to help get people engaged in that way. And so we've done that through continuing our monthly member spotlights. We do those job shares, as Garrett mentioned, that come from Career Resources, promotion of webinars, general CEPA announcements like one I did this week for the business meeting, sponsor advertisements, and Laura Richardson has really increased JCEP promotion as well on there. And then some other initiatives we put together this year where we wanted to start doing clinical patient testimonials. And I have an example of one to the right there, but the goal was really to demonstrate the versatility of clinical exercise physiologists and the benefits and importance of working with clinical exercise physiologists, and that, we can work with a number of different clinical populations outside of the ones that you routinely hear about. So if you are someone who works as a clinical exercise physiologist in the field, and you have some patients or clients that you think would be great clients to spotlight, certainly please do reach out to myself. We'd love to get a variety of people highlighted. We've also created monthly disease or condition spotlights, like, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or this past month was Mental Health Awareness Month, things like that. And so we try to highlight that condition and the work that CEPs do with a variety of those conditions, as well as the benefits of exercise for them. And then we also recently took on the role of putting together the quarterly CEPA newsletter. Next slide, please. Some of our future goals, we want to maintain and continue to increase our social media presence and campaigns to promote CEP as a profession. We want to improve our social media interaction through increased tagging of other organizations in our posts, as well as collaboration with partners. And then, as Racine mentioned a bit in her talk earlier, we've really been working with the membership committee on a campaign to increase membership numbers. I think I like to think that the ACSM conference was a success with that, and so I look forward to working with the membership committee moving forward to help drive up some membership numbers and come up with some new initiatives moving forward. I think that's it from us.
Great, thank you so much. And again, Kim and Laura, the marketing is so essential to get our name out there, seeing us on social media. It's been a wonderful wonderful addition this year. So thank you to the two of you and the rest of your committee for doing that, taking that on. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Continuing Education Committee. Unfortunately, Sadie is unable to join us, so Crystal has graciously taken the the bullet to present what the Continuing Education Committee has been doing.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Sadie couldn't be here, but we can go to the next slide. Our committee has grown throughout the year. Next slide, there it goes. Accomplishments from this year, we've increased the number of offerings and continue to diversify the variety of topics, really trying to get the full range of clinical exercise. We've also utilized the panel format, so having multiple people present in one webinar. We've decreased the cost to improve affordability of the offerings. And utilize the webinars as incentives for becoming a member and implementing coupons so they can attend the next webinar. And then we also had a free January webinar with continuing education credits. Next slide, please. Some of our previous topics, nutrition and cardiovascular disease risk and outcomes, clinical research, development, exercise interventions for cancer survivors, the roles of clinical exercise physiologists in weight loss, pregnancy and postpartum, integrative approaches in pediatrics, alternative career pathways, and this is one of our panels. And then last month we had empowering CEPs and bridging gaps in healthcare. Next slide, please. And then our future goals is to maintain the increase of yearly offerings, broadening our topics, increasing the knowledge across all the fields and other allied health areas, inviting other allied health professionals, excuse me, to present and attend our offerings so that we can really get that interdisciplinary collaboration, and to further utilize the panel format for careers, topics in the field, discussions about education, utilizing the breakout feature of the platform so we could have different rooms for people to talk to the presenters that they have more specific questions to. Next slide. I think that's our last slide.
Well, and Sadie and Crystal, you're part of the group there. Continuing education is so important for our professionals, and we really do appreciate all your efforts to create all these webinars and also help us, non-tech savvy individuals like myself be able to communicate nicely with our members, not only showing me how to host this business meeting, but also our annual conference. We could not do it without all your support of learning this go-to platform, the changes, staying on top of the changes as webinar versus meeting versus all these other great unique little attributes that these platforms hold to be able to do things like the panelists and the breakout sessions. And we really do appreciate you guys staying on top of that and helping us out, us non-tech savvy individuals. So Thank you again. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Coyne. He is the chair of the credentialing committee. So, Brian.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. We have been through a couple good years, a couple strong years, and developing this credential or the fellowship that came out of the credentials committee. I want to thank Jamal for getting it pushed forward and moving, and saying, Brian, get this thing going. So he came to me, asked me to do it. Worked with the current committee. We added a couple of current committee members. We had some people in the past, Martin Montgomery, Aaron Harding, and Ash Walker worked with us initially. And then you can see the current committee members there. And thanks for adding Shell's name. Sure, I'd get a smack in the back of the head on that one. So anyhow, not the first mistake I've made with this credentials and different things, and it won't be the last. So accomplishment over the last year, we finalized this fellowship and had it approved by the board. We recognized our first group in 2024 at the annual meeting in February. Today, as you saw, we have recognized our second cohort, and we currently have 26 fellows. So I would love to congratulate the 25 other fellows in the group. It is a strong group of professionals for CEPA, and we'll continue to support our association. Next slide, please. So we were able to get 17 of us together at ACSM, took a picture together, and this is something that we hope we can do years forward and add to this group, and put it kind of in our archives in the history of the organization. So you can see in the back, Jamal, Jeff Crystal, Walt Thompson, this is going left to right, Ash Walker, Wanda Kester, Aaron Harding, and then Sam Headley. In the front there, you have myself, Shell Levine, Dennis Kerrigan, Brad Roy, Sandy Necht, Clinton Bronner, Tim Warner, Laura Newsom, Laura Richardson, and Carol Garber. So that was fun to get to everybody together, see faces that we hadn't seen in a while, and see people we hadn't seen in person in many years. So next slide, if you would, please. If you are interested in applying for fellowship, which I would encourage those of you that meet the criteria to do so, first go ahead and log into the website, then go to the Become FCEPA link. It's under the members. Then go into the download a CEPA calculator and the application. You do need to meet a minimum points criteria. It's just 20 points of service to CEPA and 100 total points minimum. You'll have some documents to submit for your review, as well as a $15 submission fee. And you can see there the due dates for the application. So the next application deadline is the 31st of July. We will announce that the next cohort in the October time period, and then the November application deadline will be announced in February. So 3 times a year we look to be announcing fellows as we grow. And then there is the statement that we say, if you meet the minimum benchmark, it doesn't guarantee fellowship or advancement to fellowship. Each application is reviewed by committee members, and then decisions are made from there. Next slide, please. So as we want to expand our fellows, we also want to expand the reach of CEPA and our fellows. We're exploring how we can positively impact the field with our leadership currently and in the future with our fellows. And one thing that we have discussed, and Laura did mention earlier, is utilizing our fellows to mentor early career professionals. And I will say the reason we put the mentorship on hold was to get enough fellows so that we could actually try and do that. Laura came to me and said, hey, we want to do this. And I said, we can't do it yet. So I had to put the brakes on that for a bit. I think we're at the point now where we can start to do that on a small scale, and then hopefully over the next couple of years, really expand that and make an impact so we can positively impact our early career professionals as well as the students coming up into the field. And that's all I have. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian. Getting this credentialing committee together, getting it all organized, figuring out exactly how we're going to identify fellows and everything like that has been a big undertaking. And, taking Jamal's initiative and now my initiative, we're just making you work really hard. But we do appreciate all the efforts that you have put forth into this. And, I'm pleased to be a member, a fellow, with all these big names that I looked up to as I developed my own career. So look forward to seeing what we can do in the future with CEPA and our fellows. So thank you again. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Harding, Dr. Erin Harding, who is going to talk to us about our strategic plan and maybe some directional for the future.
Great, thank you, Laura. So the Clinical Exercise Physiology Association was launched in 2008, but we did not have a strategic plan until 4 years later in 2012. So we are currently toward the end of the third iteration of the strategic plan. The first couple plans were a lot longer and pretty comprehensive. And so this current plan, we wanted to shorten the time frame and narrow the focus of where we wanted to grow. And it's pretty exciting listening to everything up until now, this hour, that a lot of these things have either been accomplished or we're working significantly towards them. So the 4 areas we picked were, we needed to grow the membership. That was sort of number one. I think we thought we wanted to focus on the financial strength of the organization. Professional development is really why we're here, and there's really a lot to unpack in this section. And then we just wanted to make sure that the organizational infrastructure and support was there to maintain what we have, but also to grow in the future. So I just wanted to highlight a couple things. First of all, when we started this iteration of the strategic plan, we had about 370, 380 members. So in this 3-year period, we are knocking on the door of 700. So that's phenomenal. This is a record for CEPA, so that's terrific. Some work to do to get to 1,000, but we definitely have moved in that direction. The financial strength, there's a lot of good things have happened in this box in the last couple of years. The online conference has been a terrific source of revenue for us, and we'll continue. That was one thing we wanted to do, was expand our continuing ed. Strengthen our partnership subcommittee. We didn't have a chair, and thank you, Laura. We now have a chair of the partnership, which I think we'll call sponsorship subcommittee. We still have to work that out. We also have partnerships that other organizations we're aligning with. So, and I think you crossed the aisleway and pulled in a new partner. So that was terrific. And then I think there's still opportunities for institutional subscriptions and things that have been mentioned in the past. I think financially we're sitting in a great spot, and I want to thank Stephen Katayan for doing a lot of great work to help align our finances. Professional development, I just want to highlight one thing. We do have a ad hoc group that's looking at professional practice patterns for clinical exercise physiologists. We have one published study. We've got a completed survey, and we'll publish another study looking at how CEPs practice, which we hope will sort of inform us on developing somewhere down the road an official scope of practice document. So that work is being done. There's other work being done behind the scenes that we just have a ways to go to hit these goals. And then the last section is the CEPA leadership and ACSM leadership are currently talking now on how we can optimize ACSM support for what we do. And then that last section is really exploring the criteria and resources required to develop support for a executive director. That's a look to the future. And so if we're looking to the future, we need to figure out what it would take to have that level of support. Somebody whose full-time job is to run the organization. And so I think in the next iteration of this strategic plan, we probably want to map out what that would look like. So as we head to the end of this year, I think into the summer, we're going to look to a new strategic plan. So Jamal's going to help us head that up, and we'll have more to come on that.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Again, a new strategic plan to give us kind of a roadmap as to where CEPA can go in the next couple of years and areas that we want to focus on. So look forward to seeing the next plan and doing all of our parts to help achieve some of those goals and the initiatives. So thank you for your global picture of where we want to go and what we want to do. So take some time. Thank you. Absolutely. I cannot, as I'm thinking back over the past year, I cannot thank my EC members, my chairs, the guidance of previous past presidents, for their guidance, their direction, and all their hard work. So I'd like to recognize a few that are rotating off of our service. Immediate past president Jamal is going to roll off. As you heard, that he is going to step in and help out with strategic planning. So that's fantastic. We'll keep his knowledge base very, very close to us so we can tap into that. Our secretary, Brittany Overstreet, is stepping down, and our two members at large, Matt Thomas and Cassie Ledman, are stepping off, has rotated out of their roles, but they continue to be actively involved with CEPA. And taking on different avenues in which they can contribute back to CEPA. So thank you to all of you for your hard work, and want to recognize them as well. So next, speaking about those roles that are being vacated, we had our election for the 24-25 term. The members have spoken. It said president-elect would be Matt Thomas. Our secretary is going to be Catherine Kern, and our two members at large are Matthew Radzim and Taylor Raleigh. Again, thank you for you guys for putting your names out there and getting the vote. At this point in time, we turn it over to all of our professional members. We need you to certify the election results. And so what I'm going to do now is to, let me see if I can do all these things. Okay, let's see. Somewhere in here is my polls. And you professional members, please take a second to vote and confirm the newly elected executive members. Okay. Give it a few more seconds here. Get the last votes in. Okay, 80% people have voted and confirm the newly elected EC members. So at this point, let's see. There we go. I would like to welcome our new EC members. So President-elect Matt Thomas, congratulations. Our Secretary, Catherine Kern, and our members at large, Matt Ransom and Taylor Rowley. So again, thank you so much for volunteering and joining our ECs. That's quite exciting. We cannot do this. I'm going to speak for Garrett as my president-elect, and Jamal as my immediate past president. I can vouch for both of them and say, we as presidents cannot do this job by ourselves. It takes the whole committee, and we really do appreciate all those that step up and be members of the EC to help us, meet our goals, drive our profession. In addition, one person that we cannot most certainly not overlook is our executive secretary, Wanda, for all the hard work that she does to keep us on track, to keep us, go in the right direction, making sure that we are adhering to our bylaws, all that great stuff. We could not do this without that constant presence of Wanda. So again, my sincere appreciation and thanks to her as well. I also want to note that all of our committee members are either in the middle of the rotation, or those that were supposed to roll off have volunteered to stay on as chairs of our various committees. So again, Nicole for advocacy, Robbie for career resources, Sadie in continuing education, marketing, Kim and Laura, membership, Racine, legislative, Brooks and Joel, publications, Web, strategic planning, Aaron, and of course, credentialing, Brian. So thank you for all of your hard work and your willingness to stay on to continue with the roadmap of moving forward and moving CEPA forward as we continue to look forward, promote CEPs as a profession, possibly get us recognized in the healthcare settings more permanently, and hopefully in the future start some reimbursement and acknowledgement of all the hard work that we do. So my sincere thanks for everybody's willingness to pipe in there. Next, I have the unique pleasure of introducing the 17th president of CEPA, Dr. Garrett Griffith, and he has some wonderful resources that he can tap into. Look at the names of all these wonderful individuals of previous presidents that he has resources to, though he's not going to need to rely much on us. He's got some wonderful ideas, wonderful initiatives, great organizational skills. Moving forward, I look forward to his strong leadership and development of CEPA, and I know I'm leaving it in very, very good hands. So Garrett, welcome aboard, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words, and certainly large shoes to fill as well. I appreciate those that have come before me and set the stage for really tremendous momentum in the past few years since I've been becoming more and more involved in CEP. I've been amazed by the initiatives, amazed by the work ethic, and the fact that all this is being driven largely by volunteer individuals on top of full-time jobs, as we talked about earlier, is really pretty remarkable. I'm approaching this presidential term with an immense sense of gratitude and excitement. I think hopefully I'll convey the excitement in some of the upcoming initiatives and ongoing projects that CEPA has. But again, it's an incredible honor to kind of carry the torch forward and continue the momentum that's been built before me and step into some exciting new opportunities with CEPA. Next slide, please. Excellent. Thank you. And before I dive a little bit more into myself and some of my goals, I can't move forward without taking a quick pause to say thank you once again to Laura. I know the words thank you have been tossed around countless times in this business meeting. And I think that really conveys the relationship that we all have with each other within CEPA. I think I've learned to appreciate how tight-knit of a group it is and how dedicated everybody is to the advocacy of the field of clinical exercise physiology. There are some highlights that have been included here on this slide. I know Laura did an amazing job, and the other committee chairs have done a better job to kind of outline the progress made over this past year. But these highlights are certainly no small feats. I think these have all been multiple year efforts and countless hours dedicated by Laura to help steer the committees and keep us all on task with divergent schedules and complex relationships of different initiatives. I think she's done a masterful job and served as an exemplar of leadership of CEPA and really set the standard for what I hope to live up to over the course of the next year. So for an additional time here, Laura, thank you so much for the mentorship and your guidance of the organization over this past year. Next slide, please. So my career as a clinical exercise physiologist didn't take the most traditional path out of graduate school. I have thought of myself ever since my master's degree at Ball State University as walking the line between clinical care with different clinical opportunities and traditional outpatient cardiac rehabilitation, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, oncology rehabilitation, pulmonary rehabilitation as well. In addition to several different research-based experiences that have really opened my eyes to the wide breadth of opportunities available to individuals coming from the field of clinical exercise physiology. In my master's programs, as well as in my PhD, I've been lucky enough to work with populations such as diabetes, multiple sclerosis, sickle cell anemia, Parkinson's disease, cystic fibrosis, pediatric congenital heart disease, and breast cancer survivors. And these experiences, both clinically as well as in the research lens, have really formed my foundational understanding of how CEPs fit into these various settings, how we can continue to carve out space for ourselves as an industry and as a workforce, to be as bold as possible to make sure that we have seats at tables for national and international ongoing and upcoming initiatives. And I think all the work from the committees that has been outlined in this hour has really done a great job of setting the stage for our continued influence in these areas. I've really gained a unique perspective on the breadth of opportunities available. I took that approach when I was overseeing the Career Resources Committee and really keeping people's antennas up to the wide variety of possibilities in the clinical space. And that's the lens that I'm taking into my presidency in the upcoming year. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. My involvement with CEPA and my leadership roles have started when I joined the organization in 2017. I remember having a conversation with Dennis Kerrigan, who I believe is on the call, during his presidency, and we met during Midwest ACSM at the booth, the CEPA booth, and he kind of sold me on the opportunity to be involved and really invest in my future in the profession and kind of help steer the ship a little bit. And I was pretty much immediately sold. So pretty quickly after that, became a member of the legislative committee and took it on the leadership role of chair of the Career Resources Committee for the next several years. The initiatives of the Career Resources Committee largely revolved around the development of that job share that I outlined previously. That has since grown and evolved into sort of more appealing posts and a wider spread of influence as we keep our post going, and the number of eyes on those posts continues to grow as well with our membership. I've also been, over the past several years, a member of the conference planning committee. So we've heard several times about how that conference has really become a flagship continuing educational opportunity for CEPA. I can't agree highly enough with that statement. I think this has really been transformational in terms of getting our reach in the international space, continuing to carve out ourselves as experts in continuing education of clinical exercise physiologists. And I really was honored to be a part of that transition process from its nature, or from its beginning as an in-person regional conference, to more of that online platform to increase the attendance and the reach of that program. On the bottom half of that timeline, from 2020 through 2022, I was the executive secretary, executive committee secretary. No one can be the executive secretary like Wanda. Then moving into CP president-elect, as well as the incoming, or the current president as of today and the year forward. So super excited to continue to appreciate how initiatives that span all of the work of the Clinical Exercise Physiology Association can be aligned with the strategic plan and really catered to meet the needs of our membership. And that's a big goal of mine this upcoming year, is to really increase transparency and open communication, to invite everyone to have a seat at the table with some decision making and with some voice in the strategic objectives of our organization. I think we can do a better job of meeting the needs of our members at various stages of their career and in various positions as we take that approach. Next slide, please. So my overarching goals of this upcoming year are broad and twofold in a general sense. First of all, I'm largely focused on unifying our wide-ranging, ongoing, and upcoming efforts that are take the form of various committee initiatives and various work and working groups that are developed throughout CEPA, and really unifying those for the express benefit of benefiting our CEPA members. Our second large goal is to increase communication to increase transparency and accountability, to make sure that our members have their voices heard, and that we're able to communicate the wide-ranging and impactful initiatives being undertaken through CEPA leadership, and make sure we're communicating that back to our members to demonstrate value, to once again ensure that they're getting their money's worth essentially from our membership. I think that's incredibly beneficial as we experience the recent swell in membership from our innovative initiatives and cost reduction at ACSM booth, for instance, to really make sure that we're focusing on retention of those members and engagement of those members, not just to have passive membership, but a more active membership that's comfortable and empowered to voice their concerns and priorities and needs from the organization, to make sure we're meeting those as we go forward. From a more specific standpoint, taking it a bit into the more narrow field, the researcher and the faculty member in me really is going to strive to enhance our research opportunities and our publication opportunities within CEPA. A lot of the initiatives that we are focused on continue to highlight the importance of the work of clinical exercise physiologists nationally and internationally in various subpopulations and in various clinical spaces. And I think it's going to be truly important for us to really put some dedicated time towards focusing on not only emphasizing the importance of exercise and the services that we provide in those spaces, but also the fact that clinical exercise physiologists are uniquely positioned and qualified and trained to be the ones administering those services. So I'll be continuing to look at, with the executive committee, opportunities to enhance the research and publication opportunities within CEPA, continuing to showcase those at our annual meeting. Lastly, again, the educator in me strives to continue to develop innovative continuing education platforms. Laura had referenced this earlier, and some of you might remember receiving a survey that was performed in the last year that's really focused on understanding the needs of continuing education of our membership. How do we meet the appetite for how our members want to be receiving that information? What content areas are of most relevance for our members? And I think we have a unique opportunity to continue to leverage the expertise of our membership, the knowledge and the skills of members in diverse areas of clinical care, to be able to develop those really unique, impactful, wide-ranging clinical education programs. I think it's a unique approach for CEPA, taking it a step above and beyond the webinars that are certainly adding value. And I think this will only add to continue to increase our relevance in these spaces. Next slide, please. All right, here's my soapbox. I'm gonna try to not spend too much time here. I don't think I'm gonna say anything that anyone on this call hasn't heard already or hasn't thought internally, but I think it's important to vocalize it and acknowledge that there certainly is a lot of work to be done. This is a challenging, but in my opinion, a very exciting opportunity. And the next sort of few years of the field of clinical exercise physiology is ripe for the shaping at the hands of CEPA and our strategic partners. This is certainly a time of rapidly evolving virtual landscapes. We have rapidly developing international partnerships with clinical interests that are of direct relevance to CEPA. And certainly we're all aware of the aging US population that will continue to drive the need for clinical exercise physiologists going forward. And the reality is all of these converging sort of contextual elements of our field are existing with the constant background of ongoing professionalization efforts towards increased autonomy and independence for clinical exercise physiologists in the clinical space. So although these are certainly challenging times, I continue to be impressed and energized by my conversations with members of the executive committee, with the committee members themselves of various ad hoc committees and standing committees, committee members that I've dealt with both in person as well as virtually, as well as all the students that I've been able and lucky enough to interact with both in person at the CEPA booth at ACSM, as well as emails that I've received. I certainly think that we are well positioned to take a leadership role in this exciting but challenging time. And although the day-to-day work towards advancing the field may feel at times a little bit like there's no end in sight, I frequently remind myself to take a step back and acknowledge that along the way, we've made tremendous progress, even in the past several years since I've been involved, and certainly the work that even predated my involvement with CEPA. I'm really amazed at the mountains we've been able to climb, and certainly not scared to move forward into addressing some of the valleys and changes of direction we'll have to make going forward. So ultimately, I'm encouraged by all of our progress and energized to steer the ship over the course of the next year. Next slide, please. So as a reminder for those who will be attending the executive committee meeting next Thursday, we have our time right there. Link will be sent out to make sure we're all on the same page. And at this point, unless Laura, unless you have any additional closing remarks, I believe we have time built in for some questions or things that might have made their way into the chat.
Exactly it. Garrett, it's now your business meeting.
Excellent. I appreciate it. So we at the moment have any opportunities for, has anyone been moderating the questions or chat things that might be worth brought forward? All right, hearing nothing, I believe we have to then have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Unless there are, I think I saw something come up here. Michael C had a comment. Let's go ahead and address this one. Have you ever considered creating community of interest groups similar to ACLM? That's a great question. We certainly are continually evaluating our committees and sort of the interests that they serve within subgroups within our membership. I'd be very happy to kind of explore a interest group similar to ACL. I might have to kind of educate myself of what that entails at present, but yeah, I think there's a lot of potential to have subgroups, and I think that aligns very closely with the mentorship opportunities that Brian and Laura discussed earlier, as well as we have our fellows and as we have more established members who are experts in various groups. I think it could be helpful to plug those young members in and keep them engaged as well. But thank you for the suggestion, Michael. Any additional thoughts or questions? Perfect. I appreciate the kind words, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I believe that's the end of the questions that have come in. Thanks for the kind words, everybody. Looking forward to working with everybody and keeping everyone engaged. But at this moment, do we have a motion to adjourn the business meeting?
I motion it.
Thank you. I lost sight of all the sub panels here, so I'm not sure if people are raising their hands or what, but excellent. Do we have a second?
And I second the motion.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. At this point, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.